Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the BuildASoil 10x10 series. This is Episode 1, Day 1, and we're going to start basically from scratch, showing you every detail, highlighting more of the details than we've done in Season 1 and 2. The way that we're going to do that is start from the very beginning, which we've loosely done before, but today we've left everything out. We're going to revive all of this soil, so to speak. We are going to be using these 30 gallons again, so they're going to be a no-till round one, so to speak. We've already used it once from the bag as far as potting soil. We're going to leave that undisturbed and show you what we would do to start from scratch. We're also going to take a soil sample from these today so that we can get it to the lab and share some more data with you, as that's part of the approach. When you can't be here and see it, I'd like to give you as many data points as possible to be able to recreate this at home, as that's the whole point, is to educate and make sure that you're independent, not dependent. If at some point I can't teach you any longer or you surpass what I'm capable of teaching you, I hope that we keep the data around, share it with anybody. You can look this up and use it again in the future. Also, as we improve, we can revisit and say what we've done different. So to get started, we're gonna move this stuff inside. I wanna show you the tent real quick. Let me show you what it looks like. So take a peek in here. It's basically empty. The 3x3 we left undisturbed from the last time, and we're gonna show you how to set that up. We're gonna put the 30 gallons in here. I've got to clean. We're gonna use some EM5. We also have to clean the equipment. We're gonna have to clean the fans. We have to clean the humidifier, and we'll discuss that as we do it. We're also gonna set up some new quadrants, but the gist of it is we're gonna have old school genetics, new school genetics, and we're gonna run some autoflowers this time. So we've got a big mix of kind of everything to cover in the 10x10 this time around. But let me show you what else we're gonna do. I've got a few things set up here. We'll go over the seeds next time, but I've got all the seeds ready because we wanna get germinating hopefully by Episode 2. So coming really quickly, we're gonna kick this off. But today I'm gonna open up a brand new journal, and we're gonna write down 10x10 Season 3 and the date, and we're gonna keep track of all the details that we go through, including how much water we use, anytime we add anything, whether it's on camera or off camera. By the time it's done, we're gonna put this each time in digital form. We'll have it either on the videos or in a long form format where you'll have access to all the data that we write down in here. Our hopes is that instead of just teaching as I get an opportunity, we'll be able to document it and share you step by step everything that we actually do in here, so it's a little bit more duplicatable. Besides that, we got to get cleaning. So I'm gonna grab the 30 gallons, move those in. The earth boxes, more than likely what we're gonna do is use that on another episode. I'd like to dump them and show you what it looks like inside there. Show you what the very bottom looks like in the reservoir after you've used them for a couple of cycles. Also see how many worms are in there, and we're gonna remix some soil. Recycling the soil is another totally good way to use it. So what we're gonna do is combine the 5 gallons, the earth boxes, anything that we want to recycle, and I'm gonna show you how that works. We're gonna put it on a tarp or put it in a tub. We'll re-amend it with some craft blend and show you how to get it back in working order. And we're gonna use that in our 10x10 for the vegetables, which is the new series that we're gonna have as a separate run. Let me show you. Right here's the new 10x10. So you may have seen it in the background. A lot of people wanna know how to grow their own food indoors. We're using it right now to start tomato starts, which we're gonna use for the business here, sell them as starts. We're also gonna plant them in the vegetable greenhouse that we're also gonna show you a lot about this season. So more to expect from BuildASoil in 2022. We're gonna teach you about the greenhouse, vegetables in a 10x10, and we're still gonna do our normal 10x10 series and continue that. I wanna give you a quick sneak peek into the vegetable 10x10. We're gonna start off full of racks, starting lots of seeds for the season. Then we're gonna convert to a full vegetable garden right from a 10x10 that we can eat out of every day, and we'll be documenting it. But let me show you the sneak peek as we get started here today. This is my wife, Gwen, and she's germinating a whole bunch of tomato seeds right now. In here, we got racks set up and lights set up, and this is where it's all gonna go. Over here, she's germinating a whole bunch of seeds. Here's all the different packs. We're gonna review those as part of that series, so if you're interested in that stuff, we'll show you everything that we got going on. But for right now, I'm just gonna clean. And so you'll see me running around. The basic model of this is just clean everything. I'm literally gonna go in there, I'll get a bucket of hot water, some EM5. I'll start taking the fans apart. So if you have questions about anything that I may leave out because there's a lot going on, ask them. Cleaning is an important part. We used EM5, which I kind of showed you while I was doing it. I had a gallon of it. I'm gonna use this throughout the grow. I use it for cleaning the plants. I also use it for cleaning anything in the grow room because I always have it around and I like it. I mixed it into the water and I used hot water. I cleaned the trays out. Instead of scrubbing the floor, we'd scrubbed it pretty well last time. We shop vacked it out, and we're gonna order a new liner from Gorilla Grow Tent. We've had this one in a number of years. They last a long time. If you ever need to replace something, they offer the parts. So we're gonna get a whole new liner in here. and we're gonna lift the soil back up and put everything on top of the new liner as we set up this grow room. We've also got 2 new lights coming from Timber that we're really excited about. Above me here, we have one of the original models that we started with, and that's a cob series of 50-watt cobs, 600-watt setup. Really enjoy the light. To help kick that off, they're gonna send us a couple, and we're gonna discuss it while we set it up and use it here in the 10x10. So Timber, thank you for that. Dan, always a help over there. Everyone that works with Timber knows that they're really helpful and answer a lot of questions. They're built really high quality, and so every light we have has been used in multiple different places. We haven't had any of them break. We have every Timber that we've ever used. For today, what we're gonna do is re-moisten the soil. And so it's super important that we start to bring things back to life. Normally what would happen in your own home grow room, if you're getting started and you're doing no-till, oftentimes you would harvest and you'd get right back at it. And so there would be no downtime as far as the soil would still be moist. You'd harvest and you would immediately go to it. There'd still be cover crop going, there'd be worms in there, and it makes no-till very easy. Other times, life gets busy and you may shut down for a little while between cycles. That's what we did. We're running a business here. We've got a lot going on and we're getting ready for the big busy season for 2022, both on our vegetable farm as well as for our soil and amendment business, which means that we shut it down for a little while. So what we're gonna show you is what it looks like when you've been shut down for a while and how to re-amend and how to start up from scratch. And to do that, we want to start to reintroduce the life. One of the ways I like to do that is to put a wetting agent, some microbials, and take a dry soil that's been sitting around a while and get it moist, get it optimal as far as the moisture and the temperature goes, get it in its environment where it's gonna live. And then we're going to do a few things. Today, I'm gonna take a sample to send off to the lab for a soil test. The reason why I wanna do that is partially this time I wanna show you that you don't have to rely on a soil test, but it can be helpful. So in these 2 30 gallons, we're recycling them or we're no-tilling them. It'll be its second cycle out of BuildASoil Light. We're going to do a soil test on one of them, and on the other one, we're not. And we're just gonna mend it according to how we would do it the BuildASoil way. If you're at home, more than likely that's what you're gonna do. And I don't want you to think that it's some impossibility to do. So I'll show you a soil test, properly amended, then I'll show you just shooting from the hip, following the BuildASoil way, and then we're gonna watch these plants grow. We're gonna start from seed, new seeds all over. We'll talk about that more as we go. Getting started, we need to get this wet. Over here in the 3x3, there's still some moisture in the bottom. There's some cover crop still loosely growing in here, which is pretty crazy. In the dark, it was growing. But what we wanna do is balance the moisture in there. So I've got the Chapin sprayer, I've got some Rootwise, I've got some of the Kuyaha, which will help spread the moisture in there. And so that's all I'm really gonna add. Before I do that, I'm gonna add a little bit of Beauveria bassiana just to make sure that we inoculate it. And this is something that can help the plants as far as having a symbiotic relationship with the fungi that'll provide some plant health as well as some pest defense. So we're gonna be using the Beauveria bassiana. We're gonna be using Microbe Complete from Rootwise, and that's just gonna add the mycorrhizae, all the different bacteria. Since it's been dry in here for a while, I want to kickstart it with life. And so to do the full trifecta, we're going to add in the Rootwise catalyst, the Enzyme Elixir. So this will just speed up the process. And then what I'm going to do is let this sit over the weekend. And I'm going to write down in my book here exactly how much water I add into the 3x3 and exactly how much water I add over here and how much of the products that I add. And we're going to keep track of it. I'm gonna write it down in my journal and we'll update that on the videos so that if for whatever reason you're wondering exactly how much water I added each time or exactly how much of which product, we'll keep documentation of it the entire time. That's all we're doing today. I scrubbed the floors a little bit, shop vac everything out. I got any little spider webs or anything out of the corners with the shop vac. Over here, we actually put another tray. But if you look closely, it's actually 2 flood trays. It's kind of funny, but we've had these sitting around for a long time. I've used them in the past. I put them together and they've been like someone stood in them and they've just been moved around. They are literally fused together and the plastic's kind of brittle. So the more you start to pull and shake, it just wants to break. So I think what we're gonna do is literally just leave 2 trays in here because I don't need another one. It is what it is. One of the things that I think that's important in the garden is you don't have to have brand new stuff. Like if you have a grow light that works, use it. You don't need a new one. The Timbers are great, I love them, but if you've got a grow light and the weakest link is genetics this round, don't go buying a new grow light if you've got tired genetics. So make sure that you focus on the weakest link. For us, the tray, I kind of feel defeated, but we may give it one more attempt at separating. If you've got any ideas, maybe put them in here. We like sprayed some water in there. We're thinking about heating it so it would be more malleable or maybe getting it cold so it shrinks a bit. But we're gonna get a 4x4 and we're gonna build it in here. This is a Grassroots 4x4. If you're not familiar, the Grassroots living soil beds. And in here is a BPA-free food grade plastic liner. This allows it to keep moisture in here in this big bed, keep the worms happy, keep the roots going, but then it's open on the bottom. That way you don't get moisture buildup in the bottom. If possible, I like to put a tray. A couple of ideas for you. If you don't have the ability to order one of these big trays, you can build something. You can literally put like some pond liner or a tarp down, and you can actually just put 2x4s or PVC around the edge so that it builds up a lip for your tarp. It doesn't need to hold 50 gallons of water. You just want it to hold a tiny bit of runoff should it ever occur. And so repurpose stuff, consider that in the garden. And if you don't have it, maybe buy it. But I just wanted to give you some ideas and show you that we're not doing it perfect and it doesn't have to be. Lastly, we clean the fans. One thing I did want to point out, if you've never done a fan before and you don't pay attention to the detail that's written in here, these unscrew backwards. So when you want to pull the fan blade off, you can't just unscrew it this way like you normally would. You actually screw to tighten and that loosens it. The reason why is very much like pedals on a bike. When this starts to rotate with the fan being on here, like this, the rotation would actually cause it to unwind itself if it was threaded normally. So they do a reverse thread, and now when it's spinning the proper way that moves the air the direction you want, it doesn't unthread itself. So if you're cleaning your fan for the first time, make sure that it's a tighten to loosen it and a loosen to tighten it. That allows you to just basically pop this off, which we did. We just took a rag, dusted it off, cleaned it in the sink, and now it's basically good as new. The other thing I didn't mention is this whole front of the cage is off. You don't need the back either. I leave the back on because you can cut yourself on these fans. They're flimsy, but they'll get you if you back up into them, or if you're not paying attention, hit you in the face. So I like to leave the back on there. It protects at least most of the damage that will occur from not paying attention. However, leaving the front off allows you to clean it really easy, and it also relieves the weight a little bit. And these things have like plastic gears inside them. If they were to be all metal geared, they'd be a full greenhouse fan. They'd be hundreds of dollars per fan. So to keep them price effective and lightweight, they got plastic gears. Take a little bit of weight off of there, it's likely to last longer. Keep it clean, it's gonna last longer than that. The next thing that I wanna do is take some soil samples, because what I told you is I wanna have more data this time. I'm gonna take a journal, take notes, write down exactly what we're doing, how much water each time we're in here, whether it's on camera or off camera. Over here, I wanna take at least one of these with a soil sample. And so I'm gonna keep it to the leftmost. That's where I'm gonna take my soil sample. And since it's on camera, I'll remember that. We'll keep it right here. So I'm gonna label the bag, put the soil sample right in there. Now, as far as soil sample goes, I always do it barehanded. I don't think it's a huge issue. My hands aren't wet or anything, and I think it'll be fine. When they get the soil to the lab, they're just gonna bake it and dry it out. They need it bone dry to get like a chemical analysis of your soil. This is not a biological analysis. And so as far as getting the chemical availability of nutrients and everything that's in here for rebalancing, it's probably fine that it's dry. So I'm not gonna re-moisten it and then dig in there. I'm just gonna take the sample first, and then I'm gonna grab my Chapin. I'm gonna show you what I mix in here, and I'm gonna slowly water all three of these containers so that over the weekend they can kind of homogenize, kind of just get relaxed in this environment again. It's a little bit warmer. I'm gonna leave the light on, and eventually it'll start to evenly distribute that moisture all the way through. On Monday, I'll dig my hand in. I'll see how much moisture it has, and we'll decide what the next step is. Either way, I know that I'm gonna sow some cover crop in here. We're gonna wait for the results. I've gotta start germinating seeds. We're probably gonna pop a table up and do that whole process. During that time, I'm gonna let the cover crop grow. And when it's time to actually plant, I'm gonna lightly till that cover crop in as a true cover crop, a green manure, if you will, like I did last time. And then we'll just take it one step at a time from there. I could tell you the whole series, but you're just gonna have to watch. If you haven't watched our previous 2 series and you do have questions, go watch those. We did a lot of information. What's gonna change this time is we're adding a 4x4, or we're doing some no-till on the 30 gallons, but we're gonna do auto flowers for the first time, and we're gonna run some really special old school genetics when it comes to our classics. We're no longer gonna run clones this time. So big change, a lot still the same, much to look forward to. I'm just gonna call this 30 gal light, because that's the soil that was in here last time. And this is the halitosis that we ran. And so you only need a couple cups of soil. And in a big bed, I'll show you, I like to take samples from everywhere and kind of mix it together. I'll do something similar here. Another consideration is taking soil from way down deep versus up top. Normally on acreage, the top 6 inches is all you're really amending. And since this is no-till, I'm mainly gonna be amending the top anyways. So I'm gonna focus my sample on going like 6 to 8 inches down. I'm gonna clear out the debris a little bit so I don't get any of the mulch layer in my bag here. And then I'm going to, instead of just taking a scoop, I'm actually gonna like wedge it open. And the reason why I wanna do that is I'd like to get deeper before I take my sample and get a representative kind of slice, if that makes sense, all the way from the top to the bottom. so I get representation of inches of the soil, not just the top inch. And this is disturbing the soil a little bit, but it's necessary. So now what I'm gonna do is just gonna go try and with my hand get all these inches in here, like from the top layer to the bottom instead of just a little off the top. So I'm gonna reach my hand in and I'm just gonna lift right here. That's a good soil sample that I want. Put that in there. And then I'm gonna put that back in. I'm gonna go over to this side. Do something similar, but now instead of having a visual, I'm just gonna reach my hand in, take kind of a wedge without getting the mulch in there. And that'll be enough for a soil sample. They'll mix that together. They'll give me a representation of what it looks like in this bed. We'll do a soil reamendment analysis, show you what that looks like, maybe go into more detail than last time, and actually amend this according to its soil test. But one thing to remember, this is potting soil. Yes, we make it special. There's rock dust and compost and everything that's more similar to real soil, but I think that you shouldn't be totally dependent upon a soil test. You don't really need one to garden. And so while I'm gonna show you for data, we're gonna leave this one not soil tested, amended according to the BuildASoil way without any help from the lab. And I think you'll be pretty impressed with how similar the two are. I'm gonna label this one 3x3. And this one, if you remember, we built in season 1, and it's only about 70 gallons, and it's a take and bake. So I'm gonna put T and B, take and bake, 3x3. That's what this soil test is. And this is the second time, this is the third round. So I'm gonna put round 3. Since we have soil testing from last time, we'll be able to show that soil test and this soil test and see if there's any differences between rounds. I think that'll be pretty cool to see. I'm gonna go to one corner and I'm gonna go to the center. I really think most of this bed is pretty similar since most of what we did is very even in here. So I've cleared out the mulch layer, so I'm not grabbing any of that mulch. And then I'm just gonna wedge in here and get a representative layer of that. There we go. Put that back in. And then I'll go closer to the center. And that's all I'm gonna do is 2 that I'll kind of mix together. That'll be a representation from the bed. You could go all 4 corners and the center. I just don't want to disturb it too much. Look, there's worms in here. That's great. It's a good no-till bed. I mean, these things hold moisture. It seems kind of dry on top, but it's alive. There's fresh casting there. There's worms wiggling around. That's what we like to see in a no-till bed. So hopefully I don't get all the worms in here. I don't want to send them off to the lab. So put it in the bag and I'm just going to sift through. That way I get a good sample. I'm going to sift through with my hand in there and make sure I didn't send a whole bunch of worms to the lab. I don't want to kill them. So I'm just going to throw them back in here. We'll re-moisten it. They'll be super happy. The cover crop will get going. Okay, I don't see any more worms. I think we're going to be okay. All right, so there's the 3x3 take and bake, round 3. I've got both my soil samples now so we can get the data for you. And we'll be sure to publish this information as soon as it comes in and talk about it on one of the coming episodes. Now what I need to do next is I'd like to just get these brought back as far as moisture. You can tell there's a little bit in there and some worms, but it's mostly at the bottom, not at the top, just because the air has been moving. In here, it's a little bit more severe because they're smaller, so it's probably a little bit deeper that there's moisture. Instead of me just overwatering it, I'm gonna err on the light side right now. There's not a lot going on. It's not like plants are gonna drink the water. So here's my old rule of thumb if you watch the videos. 5 to 10% is the rule of thumb for watering by volume. There's about 70 gallons in here. So the most I'd wanna water in right now is 7 gallons. That is 2 chapins. Each one of these cans is 3.5 gallons of water. You could probably fit 4 gallons in there, but I usually do about 3.5. And so I could water 2 of these in there. And in these 30 gallons, 1 chapin each, or just 3 gallons. A little less than 1 chapin full each would be 10%. I'm probably gonna go between 5 or 10%. That way I don't get any runoff. And I'll come back in on Monday and I'll water again. Today's Friday, the day we're filming it. And that'll make sure that I don't overdo it. The last thing I wanna do, there's no plants growing in it. I don't want it to just be mud in there and go anaerobic. So I'd rather it just be moist. I can always get the moisture more desirable as I get the cover crop going in there. And when I put the cover crop seed in, I'm gonna wanna add more moisture anyways. So I will probably just do 5% watering today. 1 chapin there and half a chapin each. That way all I have to do is fill this up 2 times. That'll completely add the water for the first go. Now, questions that we get, do I need to slowly water the soil over a day or 2? Or can I just do it and plant the same day? You totally can. If I wanted to plant my plants in here today, I had a clone ready to go, let's say. I would water right now, and if it was dry like this, I would water, I would top dress or do whatever I'm gonna do, but then I would probably come back maybe 30 minutes later and water again. And then I might wait just a little while and then plant right back into it once I know that I got the moisture right. And in that way, you can err on the side of caution, not water too much, wait a little bit of time, see how it moves through the soil, make sure there's no runoff, and then you can water slowly again. One thing that really helps if you have to get planted right away and use it is to use a wetting agent of some sort. We prefer the Q-Yaha from J Plant Speaker. It's a product that we made together, and it's really unique. You can go find Q-Yaha out there that's 10-15% saponin. This is over 60% saponin. It's a really high quality product. And when you add it to the water, it makes it kind of foamy, which you'll see. And it helps spread the moisture side to side instead of just dumping out the bottom. And sometimes dry soil just doesn't want to hold moisture. It just goes right through it. This will make it hold the moisture, and it's what we do when we're starting seeds, setting up beds. We use this pretty much for everything. So right now I've got, let's see how much water exactly. I will be writing it down. This is 3.5 gallons on the mark. That's gonna fill up my Chapin perfectly. This one I'm gonna do even between these two containers, and I'll start that right now on camera. I'm gonna mix the exact same recipe up and do 1 full can in the 3x3. The reason why I use the wand and go slow, 2 reasons. 1, I can tell you exactly how much water I'm putting when I do it this way, and it's duplicatable for you. If I use a hose, I'm just kind of guessing. I could measure the hose flow in a bucket, then I can count the number of seconds while I'm watering, but I don't really like standing there counting. You can get gallons per minute flow, like adapters, where it counts the number of gallons you use out of your hose, but sometimes they break and they're not perfect, so I'm just gonna be zen about it, take my time. I'm gonna go slow with the 3.5 gallon, and once I've really done that, later on, it's easier to take the nozzle off and water fast because it's more like a sponge. Right now, I want to take the time to do it right. So I'm going to add the J Plant Speaker. In an effort to log what we're doing, I'm going to try not to just do like the chef dose where I just kind of throw in whatever I want, because it's harder for me to tell you. So I've got a measuring glass, and I'm going to do my best to document everything that we do as precise as possible so you can duplicate this at home. This is 1/8 of a teaspoon per gallon. I'm gonna do 1/4 of a teaspoon per gallon because I really think this is pretty dry, and I'm gonna step it up, and I want it to be really foamy. So I'm gonna put this in first, then I'm gonna put the root wise in. I'm gonna put 1 teaspoon in there. The great thing about organic stuff is it doesn't have to be super precise. I just wanna make sure that I'm telling you what I'm adding. Sprinkle this in the water. The wand will work fine for my sprayer, just to mix really quick. You can see how foamy that gets just from the Q-Yaha. It's a saponin, and there's a lot of plant growth properties to that. Look up saponins and its benefit to the garden, and you'll find a lot more information about that. So let me grab the next one. This is the Microbe Complete. I'm gonna grab my measuring glass here. Microbe Complete is typically added. It's a biology, and you can use it on acreage. It's used for farming. On a potting soil, what we like to do is loosely go by the volume of soil, not the volume of water. And so if you look on here, it says 1 tablespoon into 5 gallons of water. That's kind of the generic inoculation dose, and it's really potent. I'm probably just gonna do that. The other way, if you wanna use this most economically, would be to follow it by the large garden and farm application that's written on the back. The reason why I recommend that is on a commercial level, you wanna be monitoring your costs here to the penny and not being wasteful. When you measure it by the volume of soil, these bags last very long time, and most of our customers are overusing these. And in a living soil that has the cover crop, that never dies, that you're not getting dormant between cycles, you shouldn't have to re-inoculate every single time if you don't want to. Of course, we sell products. I want you to use them. I want you to experience the benefits. So we're gonna show us using these, but our method is to teach you what works. There's a lot of do-it-yourself stuff. When it comes to microbes, it's a lot harder to do it do-it-yourself properly. And so since we're buying the product, I wanna show you how to use it. Just wanna remind you, in a big bed of soil, you may not have to do this as often, where in hydro, you have to do it multiple times per week. So kind of use that to help with your thought process. Because this is dry, I'm gonna make sure that I go hard on it and really ramp it back up to life. So instead of measuring the grams per cubic yard, I'm gonna go on the high dose, and that is the simple drench. 1 tablespoon into 5 gallons of water. This is 4 gallons, so I don't have to do quite a full tablespoon, and I'll just basically keep it at that. There's the tablespoon line. That is 3 teaspoons. I'm gonna go ahead and do 2 teaspoons instead of 3. It's pretty dang close to 2 teaspoons right there. And that is what I'm gonna use for the root wise. Sprinkle it right there across the foam. And then I have the biocatalyst enzyme elixir. All right, now this says refrigerate it after opening. It is fairly stable. You don't have to refrigerate it. They're just giving you the best advice so it lasts as long as possible. For most people, this bottle lasts a very long time, and that's why refrigerating is a good idea. On the back, you can see it says 3 to 5 milliliters per gallon. So I'm gonna grab this. We're gonna go on the high side, and we're gonna say that's 3.5 gallons. So if we went on the high side at 3 to 5, let's say 5 milliliters per gallon, that'd be 15 to 20 milliliters. I'm gonna go up to 20. If you've used this in the past and it was clear, they've upgraded and they've gotten better as they've grown, and this one has a little bit of humic acid that helps stabilize it. So put that in there. Okay, that's everything that I wanted to add to my water today, but I've got one last thing to add to the soil that I'll mention before I start watering this. And I've got to pour it into my sprayer. Looks like a latte. See if I can make a heart in there. I've got that all mixed together. I'm gonna let that sit for a minute. Anytime you mix the microbes into the water, you can kind of let it come to life. You don't have to use it immediately. If you use it right away, not the end of the world. But I mixed it. I'm gonna let that sit for a second while I talk about the last thing. BB+, Beauveria bassiana Plus. This is one of my favorite products. If you look up Beauveria bassiana, it's one of those rabbit holes you can go down where it just teaches you so much about the power of nature. And for those of you wondering, basic story, Beauveria bassiana. If you've ever heard of cordyceps, really good medicinal mushroom. Cordyceps bassiana, the canidia of it, part of the process of the fungi. It works in symbiosis with the plant to make them healthier through many different faculties. So research it on your own. Google Beauveria bassiana and plant growth. The other thing that it's sold for is like a pesticide. It actually will infect the fungi into arthropods. So certain bugs that might be a problem, when they come into contact with it, it'll literally turn them into a mushroom, using their own body as the food source. And so in soil, this is natural. It's on most farms, it's out there, but it's been tilled, or if it's potting soil, it may never have been there to begin with. We're just adding a preventative dose, a like homeopathic dose, so to speak. We're just inoculating the soil. You can also use this in heavy amounts as far as Beauveria bassiana to handle pests, but that's not what we sell ours for. Whenever we set up new soil, it's a great idea to put some BB in there. So we're just gonna sprinkle it. This stuff, it is an ounce per acre, and it's an talcum powder that's organic, and it helps it in the seed box, but it also helps it just spread evenly throughout the soil instead of the microscopic little bits of the Beauveria bassiana that we're trying to spread. Now, I've got this shot glass, but it's a little bit wet. Let me just kind of dry this off so I can measure the amount that we're adding in here and do it properly. So normally what you would do is add like a 1/16 of a teaspoon per like one plant. And a lot of times what we're trying to do is get it right in the root zone. So when you inoculate it, the seed germinates right in there. I will be using this again when we do the seeds, but to get it generally in the soil, I'm just gonna wanna sprinkle the surface. So I'm gonna go 1 teaspoon per 30-gallon container in here. I'm just gonna sprinkle this around all over the surface of the soil so that when I water, it's kind of evenly throughout here. Okay, I've got another teaspoon in here. Now to make sure it kind of stays in this area, I'm just gonna wiggle it in a little bit before I start watering. This right here, I can wiggle, and you can just rip it completely out. I'm gonna leave it in there until it's all moist and maybe kind of just pull it out so it doesn't take such a big mass out when I go to transplant. All right, so I've got this all mixed up. I'm gonna water these in right now, and then I don't have time to show you, but I'm gonna do the exact same thing over there, the same recipe, and I'm just gonna sprinkle the Beauveria bassiana, water it in there. And then we're gonna put cover crop next week. We'll have more to talk about as we get deeper into these episodes. So if you have any questions about what we've done today, drop a comment, drop a question in here. If you haven't already done so, give us a like. We don't get as many likes on the videos as we do interaction, and we wanna see those go up, so that'd be a huge help. Beyond that, we'll see you guys on the next episode.